Good morning, all of you. Hope all of you are keeping safe and healthy. Today is the day 3 of our cybersecurity program. Hope all of you have liked our past two sessions. Today's talk is about organizational safety and security. Every hour of every day. Connecting to the internet opens up possibilities of a hacker targeting you and your organization. No matter how big or small your company is, we all have to plan to ensure security of our assets. To shed some light on the same and talk about the best practices of organizational safety and security, we have with us today as our speaker Mr. Jay Wagwan. Welcome, sir.
Welcome all. I hope you are staying safe and doing wonders in your life. We welcome you on third day as today's topic is organizational security and measures. So here's our agenda. The first agenda of today's talk will be cybersecurity for organization. In this, we will cover what is cybersecurity for an organization, in aspect of organization, how we can, what are cyberspace, and about this, we'll cover then attack scenario for post-COVID. In COVID-19, what all attacks have increased, and major articles we will cover up, like how this pandemic has exposed the cybersecurity awareness within the organization and outside the organization worldwide. Then we'll cover up the basics. Then the basic pillar of the organization is employee. So we'll cover up this. Why is very important for an employee to be aware of cybersecurity. And after this, we'll cover the organizational level. In organizational level, we'll cover in two stages. First will be the cybersecurity best practices for an organization, and second, we'll cover the organizational ideal policies. What an organization should follow, whether it's a multinational organization or a small business or in a shop which is online in a day or so. And finally, if an incident occurs, then what should our activity should and how we should react on that. First, the question rises in mind, what is cyberspace? For an individual, as covered on day 2, the cyberspace might be the social media, their mobile, their laptop, that's it. But for an organization, the cyberspace area is very vast. When we go within definition, cyberspace is considered as nothing but an imaginary space by which we can communicate with others through a different network. Why I'm saying different network? Because internet is nothing but a combination of different networks. So these are some examples for cyberspace of an organization, like their laptop or their hardware assets, like switches, routers, firewall, company's internal network, intranet, Wi-Fi. These all comes under cyberspace for an organization. Now comes the question, what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is nothing but an act of protecting your digital assets, digital data, or digital resources. It is different for individual, it is different for organization also. Like individual can have a cybersecurity threat based on their social media sites, their identity, their appearance over the network, over the cyberspace. Is there cybersecurity awareness for them, which has been covered in second day. And for organization, it's different aspect. For organization, it is to protect the unauthorized access from a different network towards your server, towards your valuable assets, your data, so that no one can destroy it, breach it, or may wants to do any damage to you. One thing I want to cover here also, this is not like anyone gets up in the morning and wants to attack you. It's not like that. It is well planned, well managed types of attacks are done. It's very sophisticated types of attack done over the organization, because for an organization, you have not only to have to do a business, but you have to do also compete with other businesses also. Because for every business, there are mainly there are lots of competitor available already in the market. So the business competitor which you have may also try to breach you, so that they can get your valuable data assets, like what are your agreements are with your clients, and how you are doing, how you are managing your company and all that. We'll cover this all in detail in coming time. So these are some articles, the latest trend on attacks done during or post COVID-19. This is from WHO site. The WHO itself has declared COVID-19 as a pandemic in March. I guess it's in mid of March, and in January it was declared as an international disease, international emergency. I'm sorry. So this is an article from April 2020. Within a week or month, WHO reports that the cyber attack on his employees on his servers assets has increased 5 times. Can you imagine? It's 5 times double of what was doing before. And in this attack, this WHO reported that there was a legacy hardware, legacy servers running, legacy intranet running for WHO employees, and that was breached. But God grace, nothing has hampered the WHO organization's daily functionality, because that was a legacy hardware, legacy server and networks. But still, we should be aware of this and we should be protected about this, because WHO is dealing with lots of very sensitive data nowadays. For example, where you can have lots of this, lots of news that it's been leaked by lab or not. These are our assumption as of now. Nothing has been approved as of now. But we can say that WHO have more confidential data what we are getting in news also. So that's very important and sensitive too. It might be good enough for humans life, or it might be scary for human life also. So it's really a case of concern. This is one more article from CNBC. I may say this is one of the most precious, expensive attack done on 2021 this year. It is an article from June, which month is going on now. And this article considered this Colonial Pipeline. Most of you might be knowing also, this Colonial Pipeline attack, cyber attack, was done on USA. It is in a pipeline which provides some jet fuels, petrol, diesel, refined one to the southern part of the USA. And due to this, for a couple of couple of hours, the whole activity and whole functionality of this Colonial Pipeline organization was stuck. And what was this? In this case, according to the article, the cyber attack was done day back before, or couple of months, or somewhere down the past. The attacker managed to breach the servers and get the username and password of the staffs. But the Colonial Pipeline organization cybersecurity experts came to know that there is a breach. So what they did is they managed to change the password. They managed to mitigate the attack. But what they did is they changed the password of every staff available there, active staffs. But somehow during this work from home scenario, the password was very hard to difficult. So what the staff might done, that he has changed the password once again and tried to use the same password which was using in a previous one. So due to that, there was the employee was not aware about that what he's doing and how it can be hampered to the company, and it hampered a lot to the government also and to the company also. So through the very same username and password, the attacker get into the VPN connection through the user's account, staff account, and do a ransomware attack. And it was really a huge one. The ransomware, the CEO tells the Senate, you can understand this is the Parliament of USA, part of Parliament of USA, Congress, which is known as that. So they have to pay 5 million approximate US dollars. The latest update on this attack was that the FBI and CIA has overcome with this, and they have covered at least 2+ millions of dollars. But still, it is a huge one for an organization like Colonial Pipeline. As you know, ransomware is mostly known for everyone. What is this? Ransomware is nothing but an malware types of attack. In this, the attacker used to lock your system, lock your screen or your drive or your resource. It could be anything. When I say it's in a layman term, it's like some robbers come to your home and try to get into your home, but they didn't get into your home by default or by some security aspect. So they locked your home from outside. And once you want to get into your home also, you have to get a proper key for this. Otherwise, you cannot unlock this. This is a type of ransomware attack in a layman term. This is a screenshot of a ransomware attack of a WannaCry. WannaCry is also a type of ransomware attack. And in this, the attacker has locked the system and provided a link to pay for a Bitcoin. Usually they used to get this payment through a Bitcoin or some dummy or some this fake account also. Now we comes to our second agenda of the day. It is attack scenario for post-COVID-19. These are some stats we have get from the different resources, and this covers that 68% of the business leaders feel their cybersecurity risk has increased. Can you imagine 68% out of 100%? It's a huge percentage that they believe that cybersecurity breaches and awareness has increased. Sorry, awareness has not that up to the level of the attacks which is going on. So there is requirement of awareness too. And second one says that data breaches exposed 36 billion records in the first half of 2020. It is just for the 2020 first half, means the June 2020. And after that, almost we have covered 1 year. We are in June 2021. So it has increased a lot. It is for my expectation, it has doubled from 36 billion data breach to somewhere 70 billion of data breaches. The third one says, upon this, what we have covered, the business leader says 68% cybersecurity risk has increased. Second one says data breach has increased by 36 billion records. So how this is being done? The third one says mostly 45% of the breaches has been done by phishing and malware attacks. I guess the malware attacks and phishing attacks has been covered in second day. But on a crisp, I will tell you this malware attacks is nothing but a worm attack, virus attack, or some type of DOS attack. These are comes under different types of attack. It's about malware attack covers 17% of the whole attack, and phishing attack is 22%. Phishing attack is very easy to do because nowadays everyone is working from home. Most of the companies are doing their businesses, their works, and day-to-day activity from home. So it has increased a lot. Phishing is giving a phishing mail, SMS, or any WhatsApp call. It's all type of comes under a phishing attack. These are some articles from different news outlets. It is from the Hindu Business Line, and it is from April 2021. According to them, the COVID-time cyber attack has doubled in Q4. Q4 for Indian financial year, it is January to March. So in January to March 2021, the cyber attacks have doubled. And for they have reported this that every minute there is 648 threats the hacker is trying to do in this pandemic crisis. Remember this, we'll cover this also. There is one more article from this. This shows that how the data breach has increased, and most of them from phishing and ransomware. Ransomware attack can be done by phishing also, because phishing is a way to get into your home or secure access, and ransomware is to lock the secure access through their personal key. Now we come to this is very cool article what I got doing my research over. This is from Mr. Lloyd. He has very truly said that during COVID-19 pandemic is a health pandemic, which we can recover also, and we are obviously recovering also. The whole world is hampered with this, but he is saying about the cyber pandemic. During this health pandemic, the cyber pandemic has also increased. This is also a cyber disaster. Most of the, as you can see from previous articles, how the breaches, the attacks has increased. Every shop, every small business wants to come online because they wants to do business even in pandemic. That is the key feature of a business. Whatever happening, you should do a business. You should get onto the business and you should continue your business. So they are trying their level best, but they are not that much aware that how to protect themselves as in cyberspace. Cyberspace is not limited. For an example, I take a layman term example. If you have a shop in your street, then you are vulnerable or you have a threat within a street. No one will come from some different part of the world and attack you on your street. That's very much, I mean, very less percentage are there. There might be, but the very less percentage. But if you have a shop within a city or a state or a provision, then the threat of vulnerability area increases. You may get threat of vulnerability from the whole city, or this number of shops. Like you have a 10 shop, then the vulnerability at times can be increased to 10 different locations. The moment you come online, the shop was very same one, which is small shop. But when he comes online, the attacker and threats increase worldwide. Anyone from any part of the world can attack you. So this is the aura. Can you imagine this? So that's why I guess the Mr. Lauren has covered this cyber pandemic. Now comes like do this really scary one. We should be scared enough to do not do anything online. My answer is no. There is a requirement of awareness, because these attackers use unawareness, this spot where they know this unawareness is there in the society. So we need to flourish and explore our awareness level. For during this pandemic, everyone is working from home, so it's very important. The first level of awareness starts from employee. As the line says, the employees are the first line of defense. Most of you will agree with this also, because employees are working from home with their home network. They are out of that aura, the security coverage which was organization was providing them. In this, we are covering some sample case studies. Like during a COVID-19, one employee got a laptop from office to work from home, and he uses that laptop to access different links. Like in this scenario, Sonali used his office laptop to search COVID-19 test lab, because her mother might be ill enough, and she get panic and start surfing of different URL or links from where she can get link or details for the test lab near to her. So what she did, she falls into a trap, or she may get into a link where she can provide her own details, or she may click on some vulnerable link. Through this, her own laptop get compromised, and through her laptop, the organizational data can get compromised, like we have covered in Colonial Pipeline case. Second case study is own system users, and second case was Mohan started started working for office work from his own system. Though the laptop was completely secured enough to work from home, the ITS guy have completely provided the firewall, antivirus, and all that stuff. But Mohan think that the company office laptop was not much fast. It's not much faster compared to his own home asset. So he copy everything from the office laptop to his home asset and start working from there only. But he forgetted that his home asset can be compromised also. And like every game has an intruder point line or a fault line also. So the attacker used that fault line to get into the system, and through his system he can get into the organizational system. The third one is very common one. It is BOID. Most of you might be knowing also BOID. BOID stands for bring your own device. Most of the startups don't have that much of finance to purchase a high configuration laptop and give it to every employee. So what they say is bring your own device. Will provide you some policies or instructions what you have to do and what you have don't to do. They provide different antivirus and all that also. But since Rohan was not much aware about this BOID policy, so he neither updated his system based on the policy provided by the company, nor he patches up. So the system was still vulnerable enough to get attacked, and through him, as the others too, through him the organization can also get breached up. So it's a time for a poll. We'll cover it and I want to know your suggestions and your experience based on this. The question was, how much severity you rate for individual employees awareness for an organization? Hardly matters, mostly critical. So it's good that most of you, approximately 43% of you have considered it as mostly critical, and there are a couple of people that did hardly matter for them. That's okay. Now, the most important question we have considered in poll, that according to you, how it's hardly mattered for the employees awareness, and approximately 44% of you has considered is a much critical one. So we are covering this here. What is the importance of an employee awareness? The employees are working from home, as we can all know that since in a pandemic, and not only pandemic, most of the companies, major companies, have considered it as a culture in their day-to-day activity. They have considered it as in like you have to work from anywhere, not only home also. You can work from anywhere. Just do whatever task have assigned to you, or what is your responsibility. It is just deliver that. So the most important thing is during an working from an organization, you are covered with an organizational security. But when you are working from home, you are not secure enough, and your home network may be compromised, or how can it be compromised? You can have a weak Wi-Fi password. Most probably it has been covered in day 2, and you might be aware of this, what is weak password, and how Wi-Fi can be compromised from home network, and why we should not use public network and all that. Second point, employees can become the first entry point of attacker, because they are vulnerable enough, they are unaware enough to get to the trap and can get breached enough. Means it's a very sweet attack point for an attacker. So the first line of defense start from here for an organization. And what to do when an attack has occurred? Since it's attack has been occurred from an employee's entry point, so it's very important for employee to become a first responder to any incident occur. We'll tell you what an employee can do, and what he is considered to be done. These are some key points for our employees' awareness. First is antivirus protection. Every organization should provide an antivirus, paid and reliable antivirus to the every employee from their side, because the asset what your employee is accessing is organization asset, and it's valuable enough for you. The second point is cyber security awareness. For most important thing, the employee should be enough aware what should be what the do's and don'ts he should do during the working hours. During the working hours, like for example, he should not access any social media sites. For example, one employee is there. For example, you can consider A employee. Employee A has connected the VPN through the access point or any other hardware, and what he do is, after connecting the VPN, he started surfing social media sites, clicking very random links, or do whatever personal act he can do. But he can fall into a trap, and due to him, the organizational data assets can also get compromised. I guess you are understanding what I mean to say. The third point is phishing awareness. It is very important because it's come on mail, it come on SMS, it can come on WhatsApp or video call during your conference call. It can come anywhere. So you have to be aware enough. Like employee can click any link, so you have to make sure that they don't click on any random link or any link which they don't know. The fourth point comes the home network security. It is the most important thing, because from home network only, the employee is going to get connected via VPN, without VPN, or RDP, or any remote connection. It doesn't matter, but he is going to get connected from home network to the company's network, company's internal network. So it's very important to have home network security also. They can do at least a basic thing, like they can have a secure Wi-Fi connection. They can most of the home Wi-Fi routers also are coming with the features of encryption. They can do the packet encryption with the router. I request organizational level IT guys, they can consider this, and they can provide the checklist for the home employees, what they should do with their Wi-Fi routers or the broadband connections. And the last and foremost important is VPN users. One thing I want to add here is, for most of the companies think that they have provided the VPN connection to their employees, they are secure enough. The case is that VPN also can get compromised. So you must make sure that VPN, whichever VPN solution you have, should be up to dated and patched with the latest security updates. So please do consider that. Fourth agenda of today's day is organizational security. We have covered the employee security, individual security, which was, and now comes to the next level, which is organizational level security. What practices should they follow? This is a diagram through which I want to tell you that how normal organization works within IT infra. There is an internet connection through a router to firewall to manageable switches through which Wi-Fi is connected. Servers are connected to provide different types of applications and services internally and externally. So then there is edge switches. After that, edge switch is connected with a client or production area or peripheral devices like printer. Most of the people used to say, like some of the people used to say that we can deploy firewall before router so that it get whatever packet is coming in the network first get filtered, then only get to the router. But it is not the good case scenario. For example, you have a router 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. And a packet wants to go from router 1 to 5. And you have to follow the path 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a series. So if you put a firewall instead of router 3 or router 4, what firewall do is, firewall do his own functionality. He will filter, he will do all lots of headache and stuff, what firewall used to be done. So he will not, he is busy in routing and all that stuff because he is getting regular packets, traffic flow. So he will not available to protect your own internal network. So my suggestion is put router before firewall. So router do is on job and firewall is completely dedicated for internal network security. There are two types of firewall I want to consider here. What is north-south firewall, which is basically it's a concept of data center, but you can use in your production area also or server where you deployed a server. You can use there also. North-south firewalls are when the packet is going outside the network from your internal network to outside the network. And east-west firewalls are when the packet is going within the network from one department to another department, because breach can happen from inside also. Now, since the network is the key point and entry point for every intruder, without network, if your systems are offline, they are on enough, but they are offline, they are not over the network, then anyone cannot get inside this. No one can intrude into that. So network security is the foremost important thing. What should you follow or what should you consider while network security is? According to us, proper maintenance should be done. Means you whatever firewall, whatever hardware you have purchased, will give you some examples of security hardwares also. So whatever you have with you for your organizational security, network security, make sure that completely updated and patched with latest security, whatever the vendors have provided you. Because security also and update also, it's a regular process. It's not that once you have patched it, once you have updated it, and nothing will come up. It's not like that. You have to do every day, every week, every month, or every periodically whenever it comes. Second one is firewall. Most of you might be knowing also, firewall is the first line of defense for an internal network. Firewalls does what it is meant for. It protects you from the malicious packets, malicious traffic which is attacked on your network. Attacker doesn't know how your internal functionality is. For example, we don't know how the security agencies works worldwide. So because they have a firewall type of thing in their policies, like this, firewall protect you from outside the world. But the attacker does a random attack on the firewall or your network, and if you get a spot which is vulnerable enough, he will exploit it and he will get into your internal network. So make sure the firewall is patched enough, updated enough, and you have a daily or at least weekly or routine checkup for firewall, how it's working and what log is generating. The third point comes IDS and IPS. For example, the attacker has managed to get into your internal network. Now the role of IDS and IPS comes. IDS stands for Internet Intrusion Detection System, and IPS stands for Intrusion Prevention System. As the name suggests, intrusion detection system is meant to detect any malicious activity or malicious packet flooded over the network, internal network, not worldwide. Internal network is in your organization. It might be from your inside your network or from outside your network, whatever it is. But its major job is to detect it and make a log and give an alert to the your admin, your CEO, or your manager, whatever hierarchy you have in your organization. As the name says, for IPS, intrusion prevention system is meant to not only detect but prevent, at least from a initial level of prevention is there, from any unwanted activity to be done. For example, an intruder get into your network and try to damage or breach or copy your data from a network to his own local network. So IPS will protect from that. Now the fourth one comes is network segment. It was not considered much in previous one, but it has managed to bring a lot of importance in this COVID-19 scenario due to, as we have told you everyone, and everyone knows this also, because like everyone is working from home. So network segment has made this importance. What network segments mean is you can have a VLAN connection, and based on VLAN connection, you can have specific hardwares or VMs providing the service to segment your network based on your departments. For example, there is an HR department, finance department, production area, services, different types of production areas like developer, DevOps team, etc. So you can divide every department based on your network and resources through network segment. For example, an employee who is a team member of DevOps team, he has nothing to do with HR details or finance department details. So when he connects to the VPN, through a VPN, he gets to the internal network. Network segment devices make sure that he gets into the very same network, which through his identity has been provided to him, and he gets the very same resources like storage and SAN or NAS, whatever you have, through this network segment. And the fifth one comes is VPN, which is virtual private network. I explain a bit over here how VPN works. There are various protocols based on which VPNs works, like L2TP and peer-to-peer connection. These are some examples. I'm not getting into the technical terms, which means it will get a vast syllabus for this now, as of now. So for a VPN connection, once an employee wants to connect through a company's internet network, he puts his credential in his laptop or device. The connection request goes to the VPN server. VPN server authenticate. There are many authentication servers like Kerberos and token systems are there, through which they can authenticate that the username and password is legitimate or a good one or not. If it is a good one and a genuine one, he provides the access to the internal network and authenticate. Not only he authenticate, he manage the log also, like when and how someone was logging, at what time he attempts, and if it is a false attack or false attempt, he also managed to create a log, how many false attack has been done and from where, what was the IP, destination IP from where the attack has come. So it's very fruitful and good solution for organizational level. Now comes organizational security. From network, we are reaching to organizational security. For an organization security, your team should, what should your team do? First of all, they should identify a weak spot. I have put them in bubbles so that you can understand this. These are key points what your security team should do. Identify the key spots is the first one, because without knowing where the weakness is, you cannot treat that. Without knowing the disease, you cannot get the health issue or health report or any treatment. So the first important thing is identify the weak spot. After that, how will you identify this? The second point comes is frequent review. You should be doing it in a frequent or periodic manner, in a week, in a month, whatever suits you based on your satisfaction and your comfort. Do it as frequent as you can do. Based on your reviews, based on your frequent reviews and weak spots, make a business continuity plan. A couple of people used to say this crisis plan also. both are different in some way, but common in some other ways also. So keep on renewing that. I just say what is business continuity plan. For example, you have a IT company running, small startup company, and you want to have a disaster plan, and you have copied all the data to somewhere remote location. We'll cover that also, backup plan. And the bare minimum resources and services required to run your business at least for a week or some days is known as business continuity plan. Crisis plan is how to recover from that. This disaster recovery plan comes under as crisis plan also. Now comes, if you have a good plan, you have done everything, you are doing frequent reviews also. Based on a frequent reviews, you should be update enough that what new technologies are running in the market, how the attackers are attacking the other organization, and how they are protecting themselves. So based on this, you should be aware enough, and you should apply new technologies and tools available in the market. It could be a previous vendor also. You can go to the new vendor also. It's completely depend. The choice is completely yours. And now comes risk management. Risk management should be done in every organization, whether it is a small organization or big organization. Big organization have their completely dedicated team for risk management. And I have written GRC. GRC stands for governance, risk management, and control. Compliances. We'll cover the compliances in coming slides, but governance is somewhat how the policy should be made. Risk management is somewhat how the if something happened disastrous, how we manage to run the business before completely recovering from the crisis. The second last one comes is prepare for attack. It's a myth that everything is secured enough. If someone says that I have applied everything and I am secure, and he wants to go to sleep and he don't want to get enough update whatever is going in the market, he's wrong. My answer would be he's wrong one, and he should be always prepared for the attack. Attack can happen any time. You might have heard about zero-day attack. What zero-day attack is? For example, you have a service running in your application, and the service on which platform which is running, platform get a vulnerability, and the company providing the platform came to know that there is a vulnerability. They provided the patches on, for example, they provided the patches at 12 o'clock in the noon, and you were sleeping and you don't get the update that here the patches has came. The attacker came to know that this was the vulnerability, and the company, the vendor itself is saying that this was a vulnerability and here is the patch for this. Though then they can compromise your system through that particular vulnerability. He don't want to search for that also. He just came to know from the vendor providing the solution. So that's zero-day attack. It's have very much more definitions of also, but I'm trying to explain you in a layman term for this. And the last one comes is zero trust. Never trust anyone. If you are a security team person, do not allow anyone with their personal systems until and unless your policies are not been breached. Sorry, your policies are not been written like that. They can bring their own devices. So we say this: do not trust anyone. For example, a manager comes to a company and he forget to come with a laptop the company has provided him. So he comes with his kids or his children laptop. So that's not affordable, and that's not that's not considerable, because children used to play online and their system might be compromised, and through that the organization can also get compromised. So why to take the risk? Now we come to a security products, which I have told you in previous slide. Security products, the first one comes is firewall. There are two types of firewall present broadly in today's time: next generation firewall and legacy firewall. Legacy firewalls have some drawbacks, or you can say flaws, not drawbacks. At least we can say flaws or lack of features. For this, we provided the company has come with a next generation firewall nowadays. I'm covering this few points what legacy firewall don't have and next generation firewall have now. They have a web filter. Web filter means they can do a URL filtering within the firewall. For this, previously we need a different service or server. There are centralized managed reporting and alarm. The firewall can centralizedly what management here stands for log management. They can centralizedly get the logs, provide the logs, report the logs, and based on the logs they can do a particular analysis, initial analysis, and they can alert the admin, they can alert the manager, whatever you have considered to be get the alerts. The third one is DDoS protection. DOS, I guess, has been covered in second day. I will tell you what is DDoS. DOS means someone's try to get into your home and doesn't get in your home due to some security features, whatever you have put on your door lock or something, or windows, everything. So DOS is, since he's not been able to get into your home, so what he do is he lock from outside, or he puts some hurdles so that your door doesn't work properly. The service of the door is to provide path from inside the home to outside and outside to inside. So DOS makes sure that the service is not being provided to the legitimate customer or clients. It stands for denial of service, as the name says, what I have defined as of now. And DDoS is like, first there was one person who's trying to get into your home. Now the many people have in a group has come to your home and tries to get into your home. It distributed DOS attack. The system in distributed DOS attacks are multiple. The fourth one is antivirus and anti-spam. Now firewall can provide you a initial level of antivirus. All of you might be aware of what is antivirus. So an anti-spam is like you have a mail server running in your internal network. So they provide an anti-spam. You can also put in spam gateway. Spam gateway is for mail security, but the initial features of firewall can be triggered from here also. As I covered IDS and IPS, so next generation firewall also provide IPS, intrusion prevention system. After that, they provide application control, like what application is getting triggered, how much traffic it is being traveled, forwarded to the particular application can be controlled from here. The second last comes is email security. Most of the company runs with their own webmail servers, which is good also. They should run with that. So email security is also like as I said that they can provide, you can come with a spam gateway. So email security is done with here also. You can get an anti-spam, for example, and you can do an initial filter. For example, if you want to put in a rule that without subject, any mail coming from any outside the network should not get into the internal network. It's just a basic example of email security. And the last one comes as VPN. The next generation firewall comes with a feature of VPN also. So they can provide you VPN. So it's good as of the legacy firewall. These all features what I have listed here was not available in the legacy firewall. And for most of these features, we have to run different servers to get these services. Now the second security products comes is network access control. It is what I have covered in network segmentation. We use this as a network segmentation device. Network access control, as the name suggests, works on a protocol called Radius. Most of the routers, firewalls, and switches and other network devices come with the support of Radius protocol as of in day-to-day right now. Basically, it works on an identity management. Identity management stands for, like myself is an employee of CDEC. How can I be identified through remotely that I am a CDEC employee? Through my username and password, obviously. So what network access control does is they provide a role-based management. They through this device you can assign different roles to different people. You can restrict different people to a particular role, particular segment, particular resource. You can do also account auditing. Means if myself Jay has attempted something or tried to attempt something which was not from my identity should be done. For example, I have a 45% of the resource. I have an access to 45% of the resource of the company, and I try to get means access to the remaining 55. So we can do account auditing from there also. And we have a directory services in this. Means I have my home directory within this server. Sorry, within this device. Through this, I can get my home directory, which is shared over the network. Sorry. You can do provisioning. You can do network access control. The last one is single side out, single side on. I'm sorry, SSO, which means basically if one is logging from a particular location or a particular device, he cannot log in from other device or other location with the same credential. He has to log out from somewhere. He can use at least one device at a one time for his login. The third one comes is SIM solution. Most of the you people might be knowing this. SIM stand for Security Information Enterprise Management System. And this, for example, what this solution can do is, first it provides security information management. For example, you have you have a database of employees, your clients, different SLAs or agreements. So it provides to manage that securely. It provides the event log based on the access. It was a false attempt or a true attempt. Based on that, we provide the event log so that they can, if there is an intrusion in that, you can do a auditing or you can do a forensic based on that. The second point which it covers is security event management. It aggregate every event. It's not like it's scatter one. It aggregate every event. It correlate with the previous one and notify if any event occurs to whom you have assigned to get the notification. For example, your network admin, your system admin, or your SOC team may get the event update. It provides the log management. I just said LMS is the key feature of this. Based on your logs generated by the attempts or the traffic within a internal network or from outside the network towards your internal network. Based on that, what this solution does, it simplify and collect the everything and put into a centralized storage so that it can be identified, audited, and if required, then the forensic can be done on that. There are two types of SIM available as of now: legacy one and the next generation one. Legacy one comes with integrated functionality, what I have listed here, through a centralized solution, and the next generation obviously comes with the overflows which legacy was having. It focuses on capabilities, not infra. Means what are the traffic is coming towards your network. It provide a focus on that, not the infra which is available within your internal network. And the last one comes is data loss prevention. This is one of the most important security products for the company who are working with marketing skills or they have an advertisement company. So their data is hugely important for them. Obviously, every data for organizational data is important for a particular organization. But data loss prevention, what they do is they provide network security, storage, cloud. If your data have a stored in a cloud also, or endpoint like webmail, desktop email, removable storage like USB or hard disk, anything. They provide data prevention from VMs also, virtual machines also. Now it's time for a poll. Now the question was, what cyber security measures are implemented in your organization? And the responses are, and most of them has replied that password policy is implemented in their organization. That's very good. Network segmentation is there available. That's very good. Auto backup is there. Good. And VPN uses from work from home is available for them. That's very good. And IDS, IPS, any other is not available. Air gap security is not available. Whitelist in Wi-Fi access is not available. That should be also available there. But okay, at least the basic things are available. Now we'll come to our presentation now. Thank you for your responses. Here we have a product from CDAC. Its name is USB Pratirod. Within our organization, when we are working from office, then also we are using USB very frequently. And through USB, there can be a data breach or a intrusion. From as most of you might be knowing also, through USB, the virus and worms can be easily transferred and get into the network. So we have a product for this, USB Pratirod. What this product does is control the users of removable storage. It's not just because it provides us authentication to the device. Like you can put a username and password with this, and it can be protected enough from malware and a virus to be get into that device, and through that device to the network or your system. These are some features of this. It provides device control. All USB are uniquely identified for this. For example, you have 4 USB pen drives with you, and you are frequently using them. So it identifies, your system can identify that USB 2 has been plugged in, or USB 3 has been plugged in, or USB 4 has been removed off, that type of things. Second one is user authentication. As I said, it provides a username and password. You can put it with a solution. So you can usually identify that it has not been breached or it has not been tampered with other users. And second last agenda of today's talk is organizational ideal policies. 3-to-1 rule for backup policy. There is 3-to-1 rule, means at least you should have a 3 backup of your data, and 2 locally and 1 as an offsite copy. It might be over remote, it might be over cloud, wherever suits you. Based on your satisfaction, you can keep it, because if you have a data breach, if you want to recover from that, at least 2 copies should be there locally available, so that you can do frequently. Because as you can know that remote data access may take some time. It has different other aspects also, like network latency and all that. This is a very much good example for a ransomware attack and a backup policy. This is latest one. It is in 7th June 2021. It was reported that Fujifilm, it's a ad company, a filming company from Japan, has recovered from a ransomware attack. What the attacker does is they managed to breach into the particular network segment. The company has done a wonderful thing that they have made a network segment. So the particular segment was being breached and compromised. They encrypted everything in a particular segment. The company what does is the company quarantined that particular segment from network for the other cyber forensics, and they restore from the backup. And due to that, company didn't pay a single amount to the ransomware attackers, and company was full-fledged back then, was working functionally properly. So the best practice for backup policies is, we want to list out this thing for you. Remote storage should be there. Frequent and regular backup should be there. Frequent and regular backup can be done in a 2-way. One is iterative backup and one is full-fledged backup. Iterative backup means once you have taken the backup and other updates comes, for example, from 1 to 10 you have done this. When 11 comes, the 11 will be get backup. That's iterative backup. And full-fledged backup means you are taking the complete backup 1 to 10 at a time, and when 11 comes, then again 1 to 11. Both the backups are good enough, and they have their own pros and cons. We'll cover in some other days. Third one is automated backup. The solution should do automatic backup, because human error can occur. So there should be an automated backup. You can automate. Most of the solutions are coming with this feature that you can automate your backup based on your requirement. For example, a couple of companies do their backup in midnight or 11 o'clock at night. So based on your your frequency or your traffic or your how lighter you can be at what time. So based on that, you can automate this backup. Fourth one is address retention span. Means once you have done the backup, how long the backup should be available for you. For example, if you have a Google or Amazon or many big giants have a huge backup, and every day they are doing a backup. Means, can you imagine how much the backup storage would be? So there should be a redundant policy for that. It means how much and at what time you should keep the backup now available. Couple of companies keep for 1 month. After that, they do the archive, and a couple of companies do for 1 year based on your requirement and resources. Fifth one is encrypt your backup. Always encrypt your backup. Do not keep it as simple as or a readable form, because backup can also be read and breached. So keep it in an encrypted form, and make sure you have a good solution for encryption and decryption for backup. Second last one is cloud backup storage. It's a good take to have a cloud storage backup, because the headache of maintaining the backup is outsourced to the cloud providing companies. And the last one is comprehensive backup solution. You should always have a good backup solution. You cannot go for an I'm suggesting is you should not go for anyone backupping solution, or you attempt to generate your own backup solution. That's not good enough, a good practice. You purchase a backup solution from the market, which is good enough. And if you want to do R&D and you want to develop your own backup solution, you can do backend, or you can do parallelly. This is now we come with the password policy. Password policies are very important, because username and password is the only key features through which an identity has been authenticated. What should be done for an organization to have a password policy? Tell your employees do not have their personal information as in password. For example, your name, your date of birth, your father's name, mother's name, your girlfriend's name, anything. The second one is do not use real words. Real words means, like, for example, you keep a password like Earth. You keep a password like your state name or country name. Do not keep that, or anything which is easily guessable. Third one is your password should be combination of user uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. It should be mandatory for an organization, because you cannot keep an user uppercase and lowercase. Why it is said that? Because based on this hardness level, the time to make the guessing of password gets more delayable. Okay. Fourth one is create longer password. It should be at least told to have in other bubbles also. It is considered that you should have a 12-character password, combination of upper, lower, and special character with numbers, or at least you should have 15 characters of password. There should be a policy to change password regularly. For example, if you are using an internet facility from net banking facility, so they provide a regular password changing policy. After couple of months or couple of attempts, they ask you to change your password. And the last one is use different password for different account. Please do not use same password for every account. Here you can have this is an example of how the password should be. I have provided this screenshot for what the keyword should be to generate a password from online way. It's simple and it is safe one. You can use this. This is an example how this strong password looks like and how the weak password looks like. Now we come to the device. Device policy also is very important for an organization. Rather the company employees are working from home or they are once again coming to the office. In this, the device hostname and username policy should be there. Means what the device name should be and what the username should be to log into the device. The company should make sure that they have a particular specific policy for this. And the IT infra guys should maintain a device profile. What device profile means? The MAC address, the device name, hostname, and username should be maintained properly. And based on this, there should be allowed within a internal network access. Without device profiling or identified or registered device, you should not allow anyone others to use in your internal network. Rather it's your friend, you itself. Do not use this. The fourth one is authorized and authenticated application software should be available to the every employee. It's not that you say the employee that you can download from anywhere. You can do whatever you want to do, and you can use whatever application you want to do. The second last is restrict employee from online on-site surfing at the time of working. As I explained in the VPN connection time, it may hamper your organizational data. And the last one is strictly impose not to use office devices in any unlawful activity, because if your device is used for any unlawful activity, so as an organization, nothing will happen to you, but there will be some restrictions and some fake news might be flooded over the social media site regarding our organization. So make sure the employee do not use your device in any unlawful activity. Major standards and compliances. We are going to cover this too. ISO is International Organization for Standardization. Most of you might be knowing this also. And second one is PCI DSS compliances. ISO standard is to have how to run an organization, how to manage an organization, how the organization should functional. And PCI DSS is majorly for the gateway. Like for example, you have a college web portal, and through your web portal, students also pay the fees, semester fee. So your website should be PCI DSS compliant. Now we come in ISO. In ISO, there are different field areas in which ISO provides a standardization for them. These are quality management standards for quality management of any product, environmental management, as the name suggests, for the environment, health and safety standards, as the name suggests, this is important for hospitals, and I may say this disposal of different garbages in the hospitals also. Then energy management, food safety management, and IT security management. We'll cover here IT security management because we are, as an IT company, these three standards are for IT information technology. They are 27,000 which comes in 2018, and ISO 27001 which comes in 2013, and ISO 2002 which comes in 2013. So based on different requirements and different features, these standards works. These are not that they are one back to other. It is like different for different features available within the market. Now PCI DSS have 4 levels based on the transaction which is done through your portal or your gateway. Level 4 is if your transaction per year is less than 20K, means less than 20,000. The second level, if your transaction level is more than 20,000 or near between 1 million per year. Second level is from 1 million to 6 million per year. And if you have more than 6 million per year transaction from your portal or gateway, then it comes to level 1. What this level is, based on this level, there is different types of steps to be covered or things to be done. This is just an phase-wise diagram for PCI DSS compliances. First one is pre-assessment phase. In this, the compliance provider will do auditing, or they get the different, they ask you the different documents for company registration form, your like PAN card details for a company, or transaction details of your company, basic things. And second phase, they will assess this. The assessment phase is done. They will understand your business flow, how you are working, what are services do you provide, your scope in the future, and the gap where there is lack in that. They provide you these details also. In third phase, they provide you the remedies. Remediation phase means they provide you how to mitigate these gaps, how to overcome with these gaps. And in fourth, they provide you certification based on rigorous online and offsite auditing. They genuinely do a rigorous auditing for this. This last agenda, and not the least one, this how to react if any incident occur. If any incident occur, first one is always preparation be done for this. If any incident occur, first detect it and analyze it. If we have done with the detection and analysis, go for containment. Quarantine the system or network or whatever resource it is, and try to recover it from there based on your backup, based on other policies and compliances, which we have covered earlier. And after this, always do a post-incident activity. Means you should know what was the root cause for this. You should do whatever required to mitigate this, overcome this. We'll cover these points in a coming slides. First one is preparation. For an organization, it's not for individual. For an organization, the organization should always have a right person with right skill. They should select with people with the right person with the right skill. Some of the organization may say that why should we spend this finance or amount on a manpower or resource security products, but we suggest that your valuable assets, your data is much more costlier than what you are spending on your assets. I hope you are understanding this. You should, if you are a big organization, you should make a security incident response team, which may have CISO also. If you have a small organization or a startup, at least you make a group of people of SOC team, which is security operational control team. And fourth one is plan in advance how to handle. Means you can do a mock drill, you can do a risk management assessment and all this stuff to in advance, so that if any incident occur, so it means how we are going to handle that and how we are going to overcome that. And the second last one is appoint a cyber security team leader. Means if you have a SOC team, if you have an incident response team, so there should be one single point of contact for management that and he should be he should have the much authorities to make any decision, like if a system is in compromise, the system should get quarantined in the network, should get out of the network. The person has to take the authority to have to take the decision, and it should be very frequent one. And you should always have a legal team also, because based on your attack, you may file a legal sue on the attackers. So you should have a legal department for this also. You might be a service provider, so legal team can also provide a public notification to the clients. Now second step comes in detection and analysis. Detection and analysis means there should be a system administrator, admin, a network admin, and other which are the reporting one. For example, if someone is working from home, they should know from where and from whom they should report my system has been compromised or any incident has occurred. SIM solutions are one of those solutions which I have already explained in the previous slides. They can generate alert for if any incident or intrusion has been done within your internal network. The file integrity should be checked properly. For example, you can use hash algorithms to check the file integrity, so that you can mitigate the attacks like man in the middle attacks type of things. And fourth one is the most important thing for analysis. You should always have a log. Log management is most important thing, because if your attack or any intrusion has been done within your network, so without log you cannot prove in the court of law. So it's very important for this. And what are the devices? Basically, you can take a user log, OS storage log, network devices log, or your applications or services logs. Now comes the third point, containment and neutralization. When you came to know that this particular device or particular segment of network has been compromised, then first and foremost thing, you should contain that, so that it cannot get spread out like a fire in a forest. The virus can run more faster than a fire in a forest. Believe me this. Okay. So what you can do is disable the device from the network, means quarantine this. Use the log available in a SIM or any other security product you have. Reset the password as soon as possible, the users which has been compromised. And if the intrusion has been done from within the organization, then you can block that particular user's account also, and use backup to overcome this. Now it is after post incident activities, means you have quarantine, you have come out of the incident. Now what you should do? You should always assess what are the damage and severity has been done to you, because based on this assessment, you will do whatever required to do. For example, examine lesson learned. What are the precautions you have skipped? What are the loopholes you have already was available in your network? So mitigate that. Patch your servers and network vulnerabilities which was available, and train your employees how to avoid phishing scam, which is very common and very headache thing for organization now. And for last, roll out technology is much better to monitor, consider threats. Spend some huge amount or some at least your budget in cybersecurity or security products for an organization too. Now the conclusion at the end, I would like to conclude that follow the best practices while you're in cyberspace. As I said, if you have a shop offline, its vulnerability limit is quite limited to the location. But if you are available on cyber, means you are vulnerable and you are always open to attacked by anyone. So always keep your safe distance from unlawful activity. Keep yourself aware enough, and please provide the details and please follow the details which have provided by us, and any other authentication source also. You can follow any other authentication source. Like for example, we have quoted many facts and figures from different sources also in the slides also. So always invest in safety and keep yourself updated. At last, I want to say that always be alert and updated. Stay safe and stay updated. Thank you. Now we'll go for an quiz for the day. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this quiz attempt. Here are the questions which were there. And in the question for anti-spam, 73% have attempted correctly. And the second question on this, 75% approximate, sorry, 92% of approximately has attempted correctly based on ransomware attack. And the product of CDAC on this, approximately 81% has covered correctly. And based on question on VPN connection, 96% of the people have attempted correctly, and that's very good also. And denial of service, this is DOS attack. Based on this, 65% has attempted this. DDoS, DOS attack, the 90%, that's very good. I must say this percentages. Okay, so most of you has attempted correctly. That's very good. I'm glad to know this. As I covered in the security products, there are basics, like there was a confusion in this. So in security products, there are hardware solutions also and software solutions too. So based on this, software that filters incoming traffic is firewall. You can have a VMware running firewall, means firewall service running on a VM. But particularly VMware cannot filter into any traffic. But any services which is capable enough to filter the packets can run on a VM. So based on this, for a layman person or for direct hit answer is correct answer is firewall. I hope I have cleared the thing. We want to know this, like the form of attack through which a hacker exploits the human psychology and social engineering. Most of you know this. That's very, very wonderful to know. Thank you guys. And after this, we'll go to the demo session. And demo session will be provided with our Saket sir and Aditya.
Thank you, Jay. That was indeed a very insightful and powerful session. So we will be moving to our demo sessions today. So we will be starting with online meeting attack. Then we will be going to remote access using VPN, okay, mail spoofing, and then we'll be ending up with DDoS session. Okay. So starting with our online meeting attack. Okay. So in this COVID pandemic, you see everything was conducted online, right? From corporate meetings to students' online classes as well. Everything was conducted online. So what I will demonstrate you that in case of many Zoom applications or like Google Meet applications, you have to be very secure of what you click and what you don't click. So this is a demonstration of that. Okay. So starting, what I have done is I have created 2 Zoom accounts. I will be creating an account from one. Okay, and I will be inviting one of my second account on that. Okay. So I will be clicking on Zoom. Okay, this is a Zoom account, and then I will be clicking on new meeting. So once I click on new meeting, I will be creating a new link for that to join. for all the participants, right? So I have clicked on the security tab and I have copied the link, invite, right? So once I clicked on the invite link, I copied it into my clipboard, and then I shared the link to all my colleagues or the friend circle where they need to get in the link. Okay, so I have opened a Incognito tab, okay, from one of my browser, and then I pasted that link. Whatever link is there, I pasted there, right? Now after I pasted that, okay, it will open it and it will ask you to open a Zoom application. But I don't want to open a Zoom application, so I click on cancel and then I click on launch meeting again. So the second time when I click on launch meeting, you see there is a option which pops up, having issues with Zoom client, join from browser. Then I click on the browser link, correct? Now you see that I clicked on join the browser, and then it shows me that you can join a meeting link with any of the name. So I selected the name as Saket, right? And by the way, when I clicked on the, I just created the link. I wanted like Saket to join my link. So whenever I see the name Saket, I will allow him, right? So once the participant clicks the name as Saket and he clicks on all the captcha options, okay, then Zoom, I will be allowing him. So he's clicking on all the captcha link, and you see he clicked on Zoom, okay, join the meeting link. Now next, you see at the bottom end of your screen, it shows that Saket entered the waiting room. So I can just admit him because I know that Saket is the person who is coming. So I will allow him, I will admit him. So I clicked on admit. Now once I clicked on admit, he will be joining the meeting, okay? Now once he have joined the meeting, you see his name is Saket there, right? And my name is Aditya. So two participants are there in the meeting. Now, what Saket can do is he can rename himself. Right now, he cannot rename himself, but he can rename himself after he joined the meeting. Now he can change his name to Siddharth Patna. Okay, and he can change his name and he can send some malicious link. Okay, so he changed the name to Siddharth Patna and then saved. Okay, so whenever I click the link, I don't know, many of the participants will be joining, and someone can change his or her name to anything, right? And now what he can do is he can give a malicious link. Okay, I just gave a link to patna.sidak.in, okay, from bit.ly, and then what I did is I shortened it so that people does not know what is inside my suspicious link. So once I get that bit.ly link, okay, I will just copy it and I will just paste it in the chat box. And you see, I will paste it as quiz 1. Like you guys are clicking on the quiz links. Okay, so I will be giving the link of the quiz. So once he gives the link for the quiz, everyone in the chat box, he will be able to see the quiz link. And one cannot identify whether it is from Siddharth Patna or whether it's from anyone, because he has renamed himself, right? So what we can do to mitigate this flaw? Okay, now you see here we will be getting a security tab, right? In the extreme bottom of the screen, you will see a security tab. So once you click on that, you will see many options, like from you can log the meeting, okay, you can enable a waiting room for that, okay, and you can hide your profile pictures, okay, you can share your screen, or the chat, the rename feature is also there, unmute themselves also there, or start video also option is also there. Okay, so there you can see rename themselves. There is a there's option for that. You just click on that, okay, to prevent participants to rename themselves. Okay, you can do various kind of activities there, but once you click on rename participants, what you can do is you can just click on the invite link once again. Okay, copy the link and go to Incognito browser, and you just share the link. Now you see, once he shared the link, I will be going into that link. Now once I go to the link, I will be giving my name once again. Now again I will be just cancelling it. I will launch the meeting once again, this just like last time. Okay, I will be installing. I will be going to the Zoom client using the browser itself. So once more, I give my name as Saket. Okay, and here I will be seeing the name Saket, and I will be allowing him to join. Okay, and once he joins the meeting, you see there is no options to rename that guy. Okay, so any person which you have approved with a name, okay, he will be only able to join that meeting, and he cannot rename himself. Okay, now let me showcase to you that if some person give you a link, I mean a link to share your any link. Okay, so what you can do is you can just use a URL expander. This is a example of a URL expander. You just do a Google search, okay, URL expander or URL unshortener. Okay, here you can paste any link. You just paste a link here, and you just click on expand URL. Okay, so any link which you get. So once you click on that, you see the link is converted to patna.cdac.in. You can see the link which has been given by the user. Okay, you can just click on it. And one more thing you can do is you can just use the positive, and that also I will be showing you bit.ly, right? Now, whenever you go to a link, you just append the positive sign at the end of the link. Once you click on that, you see that when the link was created, you can get the date and the time, and also the title of that website, and also the URL of the website. By this, you can verify in what link you are going. Okay. So over to you, Saket sir. You can continue with all the other demonstrations.
Thanks a lot, Aditya. And it was a great session by Jay explaining all the dynamics and aspects of organization security. And starting with the demo, we have seen the most vulnerable online meeting attacks which are happening in our meeting when we are organizing a webinar or attending an open meet. And I'm seeing the chat box. So to answer all the queries related to Google Meet. So the whole purpose of Google Meet is just to enable the meeting inside a organization. It is not for webinars. So you all are very right and correct in the aspect that we can't have the security features as of disabling the name and all right? So that is not provided in Google Meet. However, it is there in Zoom, which is very much popular. That is why we have shown the demo on Zoom and also on Cisco WebEx. So I hope I have answered the queries related to Google Meet then. Now switching on to the demo part, which I would be covering is, we'll be starting from the basics of mail spoofing we received in organization, and why we are always reiterating the same task of verifying the mail sender and the subject line and the hovering over the link, because as we have seen, around 94% of attacks are launched by phishing. So email usage should be very much important to all of us. So starting with, this is two examples of mail spoofing which I have recreated, and I would explain it with the context. First one is for anyone who has joined us as an educational institute teacher, professor, or principal, or as a student. So this is a mail which is sent by someone who is, I can rename, I have already shown you on the first day, I can rename the name. So it is a mail which is saying regarding workshop registration on AI and data science. And this would be the name of the coordinator, for example, a MTech coordinator, right? So, or a BTech coordinator or any PhD coordinator. So this is very common for an education institute. So what he is writing is regarding workshop, dear student, so-and-so company, it should be very valid and relatable. Intel is organizing a series of webinars in the field of data science and AI designed to educate and inspire the aspiring minds. The series is scheduled from so-and-so date. The objective of the webinar is to bring together the experts from industry and academia and how it works. All the details of a webinar, of a normal webinar, which is to be sent, is sent to the students. And then what he writes is, realizing the importance of this webinar, I am very pleased to inform you all that I have registered you all for the same. I have done the formalities of details filling and payment. The email ID was kept mine, hence I have received the confirmation. So you all can understand how he's covering his what he has done, right? First, he is saying that since it was very important, I have done the payment, I have done the registration, and I have done the payment. So when he has done the payment, automatically nowadays we receive a confirmation. So to cover it, he is saying that since I have kept the email ID as mine, I have received the confirmation of the payment. As a student, I would rely on the coordinator if I am not checking his email ID, because the name is same and the signature would be same. Now he is writing, due to COVID and the restricted visit to office, request you all to transfer the registration fee of 1200 per participant to following bank details. All right. So this also seems very valid. Online meeting is there, online webinar is there. And due to COVID, we are not going to our college or institutes. One of our sir has done the registration, let's send it. So this is one of the phishing and mail spoofing which many institutes and schools, colleges are facing in terms of getting money for different webinars or workshops. For example, I would be sending this to guys who are reading these subjects. So this background study of social engineering is already done by attacker. So this is one of the examples where we should be very conscious and very careful while seeing the email ID. Only one other T is added. So that is what I wanted to show related to the organization, mail spoofing. So this can be done. So see, one aspect is around 34% of attacks which are being launched are due to insiders, right? So either insider could launch this attack of mail spoofing or someone who is sniffing your mail and your conversation. So either of these two. But the thing is, what you can do, you can have a good email usage practices, which has been already covered in day 1 and day 2. So this is one of those examples of mail spoofing related to organization where only the name has been changed to HOD CSF. CSF is a group name, and we are recreating. That is why we are using our group name, that is Cybersecurity and Forensics Group. And HOD CSF, it seems genuine. And regarding the subject, you can see it would be very much related to the project which the team is undergoing. Okay, that is why I'm saying the attacker would be continuously monitoring the talks between the team or through social engineering, right? It can be my friend of my organization, and he could attack because I could talk to him on chat, on Facebook, on Twitter that okay, tomorrow we would be probably having a meeting, and likewise. So we should be very careful outside our organization also, to whom we are talking, what details we are sharing and we are not sharing, aside of email usage practices. So what he writes is, dear team, the scheduled meet relates to the implementation of Cyber Forensic Lab and Cybersecurity Architecture for Bihar State Government Department under the guidelines of CERT-In. All is very genuine and very technical, and that is why as a reader and as a team employee, I would not doubt it. Until and unless I will see the email ID, I will see the links, I will see the I will call and confirm. So all these three practices which we have discussed earlier should be done here also. So all is written that we have to go for a discussion. Detailed discussion will be carried out on Monday. From for now, all my enthusiastic team members of CSF team are requested to submit their details for the CMO Government of Bihar verification process. Keep your Aadhaar card with you while filling the details. Very genuine, right? Click below to proceed. Now a click is there where if I click, I will go to somewhere else. And how could I verify? By hovering over the link. All right. So these things of email usage and prevention of phishing is already told to you. You just have to be very cautious about the norms of mail spoofing and what you should share and what you should not share. You should call and verify wherever you are seeing that someone is not seems right, or a link is sent, or a payment is being asked. All right. Now moving on to so for DOS attack, we have just simulated two machines and where one is attacker and one is a victim. So victim is running a Windows server where they are not running any network security, and the organization wise, the cyber team does not treat cyber attack as serious. What I mean by this is there is no NAC in place, there is no firewall in place, and if it is, they are very lenient in writing rules and restricting the incoming traffic. So using a simple I'm just demonstrating one of the simple attacks of ping flood. It is denial of service. So I would just flood the server with the ping request, and it can be done with any request. And what you can see here is target is vulnerable. So another command, and we would see that our victim is down. All right. So this is one of the example of denial of service, which is covered today and day before, on day 2 also. That a service was hosted, and by attacker, by sending a request which you are not blocking. All right. You are handling and you are sending the reply. So you are busy as a server. You are busy in some illegitimate packets, and in that time your server could be down, or your legitimate customers, legitimate users would be facing the service down, and it would affect the business. Right? So this was one of the example of denial of service. Another thing, how to mitigate the simple would be, that is why I've said that a simple command in the firewall, or simple writing a rule in the firewall could avoid it. Here you can see I'm just pinging my server, and through Wireshark I can see that both ping and reply, request and reply, ICMP request and reply coming from the server. So I could see that, okay, the server is handling the ping from any of the users, right? So what could be done was, at the server end, I could just have added a firewall rule. I'm keeping it very simple. So I'm just writing a rule where I would be blocking ICMP request. So this is very simple, guys. You could add rules for many ports, many protocols, and have exceptions of IP address and all. I've just kept it very simple to just blocking an ICMP packet, nothing else. So by this task of just 30 seconds, and that is adding a firewall rule, what we can do is we can avoid a possible attack, a possible simple attack on our server. So now we will see that we'll try to again send ping request from our attacker machine and try to capture the packets on Wireshark. So, all right. So I hope you are able to see that we are only able to get the request packet, not the reply. All right. So I hope this is clear. So since we are only getting the request packet, the server is not busy in providing the reply to us, but the service is up for the legitimate user now. Now coming to third part of our demo, where since the actual configuration and implementation is not possible in this time frame, why this is important is because the new trend nowadays is work from home, right? And securing remote workspace, making it available all the time. So these 2 points are very genuine nowadays, so that we are able to see, we are able to work for our business always. Let it be a non-IT or IT firm or an educational institute. And at the same time, we should also have something in line where we are able to secure our secure our communication to the workspace, to the environment we are working, that is our company, located anywhere from our home. So this image is what I'm trying to explain, and what already in our talk has been explained, that the user could be logging from anywhere, from any place, any device. And through VPN, that is virtual private network, we could have a tunneling between the end user and the server. And only these two guys, if the data starts encrypting when we are sending from end user, and it can be only decrypted at the server end, because the key is with only the user and the server. So this is how it is encrypted, and it can't be viewed from anyone who is in the middle. And this also enables us work from home. How it enables? As the name explains, it is a virtual private network. So we may be in someone other's network in our home. Let's say we are using an Airtel service provider, and we are in the network, private network of 10.0. something, and our office in the network of 172. something. So through VPN server installed in our office, and this is one of the examples, FortiClient, this is one of the vendors of business VPN which CDEC uses. And you can see there are two options of SSL and IPsec VPN. It varies depending on the protocol it uses for encryption and securing the communication between end user and the VPN server in the private network of our office. So what we do is we provide the server we are trying to connect, and then server provides us the private network pool which the server has been configured with. That private network IP pool would be of the office network, right? That is why when we log in into VPN and try to access any server which is installed on our network of office, it could be easily accessed. So, some of the common vendors in VPN is open source of pfSense, FortiClient is there, Norton is there. It comes with device, and with device you would have a software solution also, and also for Cisco. So this would be all for the demo, where we have covered mail spoofing, online meeting attacks, how to check and verify mail spoofing attacks, and then what is the significance of VPN, what is the significance of VPN in work from home culture, and also how a normal usage of NAC, normal usage of firewall, using adding different rules by our IT admin guys and departments could save us from DOS attack. That would be all from my side, Yati. Now we can move to question answer session.
Thank you to all the speakers today. Participants are open for questions. They can post their questions in the chat box, or they can use the raise hand option. Our speakers will take your questions one by one. Anybody has any questions?
Hey, hi. This is Rishabh Saket. So, see, nowadays we see even in the demo and even in the session, Jay shown and you shown and even Aditya. So, all the organization, I mean, all the big organization kind of using good software, good firewalls, and even good antivirus and everything. But still, we hear the news of their data getting leaked, or they are getting attacked by one or other or by hackers or what. So is there any place or any source from which we can get the information about what the last learning from this this hackers attack, where exactly we went wrong, where exactly these organizations went wrong? Because these are using even the most good, I think, good services from good antivirus services company, or for good firewall companies, and still they are getting attacked and data leaked. So where we can find these learnings from the last attacks?
Very right, Rishabh. In fact, I would like to thank you that you are helping me out to achieving the objective of this cyber awareness program. So as he said, and this is learning for all of us. This question is very genuine and proves the very point of repetitive cyber security awareness program. So what he is saying is, though I would come to the answer of your question exactly, but to provide you the context of what Rishabh is asking is, many of the organizations are very much secure, and big giants use good technologies, good products, have a great cybersecurity team. Then also we hear very now and often that they are being attacked. And as per my understanding, your question is where we can provide this learning. I would try to compile it and send to all participants. But in parallel, as per my understanding and research, and all the research we have done for this program and previously also, it is what we have been reiterating from day one, that the weakest link is human. The weakest link is us. The weakest link is the employee in the organization. The insider threat is the weakest link. We should be able to understand where they went wrong, what was the fault at their end, so that we could overcome. But the research which we have done as a team and previous studies also to my earlier career, what I have found is major of the attacks, and the stats also prove it, major of the attacks are due to the casualness of the employees, the weakness, the human weakness in the link. It is the weakest link, right? 34% of attacks are due to insider threats. You could know the magnitude. Many, around 94% or 98% of attacks are due to social engineering. And 41% of IT employees are saying that they have been lured into the social engineering attack. So you could understand, for me, organization is secure from the point of view what today has been covered by Jay, that using different technologies, placing the firewall, NAC, and using VPN and all, which is recommended, but having good policies of device and password and all. But if the employees are very casual and they are running shadow IT, which I have covered in day one, or they are sharing the sensitive information with their friends, with their field, their friends, they could be easily attacked by social engineering techniques or any email usage, relaxation of email usage norms. So what I feel is the major point is our responsibility, individual responsibility, employees' responsibility. It can be a sysadmin guy, it can be a receptionist sitting in your organization, it can be a IT guy, it can be your director, it can be anyone. As he said, as the today's talk, Jay also explained, the director should not also be exempted by bringing the laptop of his son, because it can have any malware, right? It can have any software which is not recommended for our network. So in parallel to what we have recommended as in practices of products and technologies, this is what I feel very genuinely, and it is based on the reports which we are getting from Gartner and risk-based security, and also the research and study which we have done on our individual capacity, that individual employees should be very much aware. And to be replying to your exact question, Rishabh, our team and I would assure that in 2-3 days, I will compile the recent attacks and the cause of it and what we can learn from. I will send it to all of you.
Yeah, thanks, Saket. Good. Thank you.
Any more questions from anyone else? Thank you to all the speakers today. It was a very interesting session. I hope all the participants had a very enriching experience today. And thank you to all the participants as well for participating and taking the time out. Hope to see you all tomorrow at the same time. So thank you, everyone. We'll be closing now.